Morning. I know what I want to say. I have no idea what order it's going to come out in. So I affirm divine order. That would be the best one. Yes. All right. So I'm going to not use filler words, and I just did. I pray that I am able to give this talk learning to pause rather than using filler words. Thank you, God. All right. One of my goals right now. Okay, just did it again. Inspiring transformation. What is this community ready for next? That is my topic. The things that we read in the beginning of the service are very important. They aren't just words to fill up the service. We set our intentions, we say our most basic affirmation, which is really like our first principle, that the divine, God, good, love is everywhere present. And then we talk about our vision and mission. Well, we talk about building bridges, which is something that Joe and I talked about a few weeks ago when we talked about our history in this church, that we are a thriving spiritual community. That's very important to remember, and it's true always. It's certainly true, just as true when we don't have a minister, because the times in between are not just fillers, like filler words. The times in between are important. You know, when we studied, I've studied transformation in Robert Brummett's book, or transition, finding yourself in transition, which can be a form of transformation if you want it to be. He talks about the void, and he says, it is just as important when you're in the void as it is when you're in the times that you think are the real ones, the important ones. Because all of it is a process, and we're learning and growing if we allow ourselves to be. That's all it takes is for us to allow it instead of blocking it, and that does take some awareness, usually some spiritual awareness. So we are a thriving spiritual community, building bridges, sharing love. Well, that's why we come here. And, we might not all feel real loving on the same day, but we also don't feel real crappy on the same day. So we come together to hold up one another up and to hold the high watch, which is one of those old-fashioned unity terms about holding a situation or a person in prayer. We hold the high watch for each other. I heard our board president not long ago stand up here, Michelle, and say, we help each other, and we need to do that. We need to remember that's who we are. We are helping people. We are people in service to one another. That's what community is. So putting all this in our consciousness is how we grow, and holding it in our consciousness is how we grow. And we may have apparent setbacks, that's fine. We are living a physical life on this complicated earth, but we are still growing. Okay. I'm using a book today, Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. It's my current favorite book, and it is about community, the quest for true belonging and the courage to stand alone. Both true belonging and the courage to stand alone. Things that appear to be in contrast, but they're not. They're all part of being able to thrive, to be a thriving spiritual person, and a thriving spiritual community made up of thriving spiritual persons, because we are on a path finding what true belonging means for us and finding that we have the courage to stand alone. Carl Jung said that paradox is the greatest example of what life is about. Things that don't seem to go together. That's life. It isn't just what we think it should be. it isn't just that we have to be all one thing and not any of something else. We might be both and. I heard Martha Creek tell us that last fall. Both and. You know, we don't have to rule out anything. We are, if God is everything, God is all, and God is in us and around us, then it's both and. It's everything. Some things we prefer, that's for sure, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are all, as we call it, bad, just because it's not our preference. So one of the things we have done is we have been, since Reverend Cherie left, which has only been 4 weeks ago today, not that I've paid attention, we are looking forward to the process of hiring a new minister. And that process has just begun because we got the packet which from the Unity Worldwide Ministries, which we fill out, the steering committee. I'm not on it, but I'm kind of a butt kicker, get them started. And they had their first meeting this week, and then I said, I'm out because I'm not really supposed to be picking the minister. It's rules. Rules. So we are going to be picking a minister. And the first step is filling out a packet all about us, and some of where we've been and where we are, and all about what we want in a minister. And that is usually what we focus on. When we are in that void, when we are in between, we usually focus on, what do I want in a minister? Who's responsible for my transformation? I am. You're responsible for mine? Thanks, John, because I needed somebody. I'm responsible for mine. John is responsible for his. We are each responsible for one. Emmett's responsible for his transformation. You know that? All right. Got it. Okay. We are. So we sometimes can forget that, and we say, I want a minister who is going to bring transformation. I want to sit in the chair. I always want to say pew, being old. I want to sit in the chair, and it sounds so much worse. And I want to be inspired by the minister. And I want to be transformed by the minister. Okay. And usually we say, and we want to grow. We want to outgrow this building. I mean, not just us, but most churches. Oh, really? Oh. Why hasn't that happened? I don't know. We want to have a huge youth ed. Oh, really? Hi, kids. And I don't have answers to some of these questions, but I think we should all ask ourselves these questions. Because if these are things that we really want, then what are we doing? I don't know. Are we blocking them? Are we just not attracting them because our focus is on something else? I don't know the answer, but this talk is about raising questions that we can all ask ourselves and discuss among ourselves or with anybody you want, because it's not gossip. And we can gain a clearer picture of who we are and what we want. Because it isn't just what we want. It's a lot about who we are and who we want to be. And, you know, you might be going through a transformation and not know it. There's, as I mentioned in the opening prayer, there's seed planting. That's one thing that happens. We might hear an idea, and it doesn't really mean a lot to us, but it goes somewhere in there. It's in the file. And it may come up later and be very significant. It may grow. It may change your life. But it started out being just a seed that was planted by something someone said, or something in a book or a movie or a song or whatever it might be. But it could change your life. And we don't know which things are going to do that until pretty much it's already happening. So we may be experiencing transformation if we allow it, if we open up our minds and our hearts, and if we aren't just wanting to sit in the chair and attract some minister who's going to do it for us. But we do want a minister who is being transformed, himself or herself. We want a minister who is accountable, who knows clearly that she or he is responsible for his or her, I'm going to say they, I'm not, grammarian, but now we can say they, that they are responsible for their transformation, and that their job is to facilitate ours, to help us with ours. That's the highest job, probably, that a minister can have. To be accountable to their own growth, to be authentic. We got to have a sense of humor around here. We know that's on the list. And to be a helper, a guide, a mentor in our awareness of our own transformation. Now, that's the things that I think are important right now. But it comes back to us, to us. To us being active rather than passive, to us having a consciousness and awareness that invites our highest good rather than fear. However, I am not a person who says, don't talk about fear. Don't say we don't have enough money. I am a person who says, we're humans on this earth, and whatever I'm experiencing now is real to me right now. It's my reality. I might not want to stay there. In fact, quite often I don't. But I want to be aware of it and to admit it. I'm not going to say. People ask me how I am, and I tell them. They don't even want to ask me anymore. I don't blame them. But sometimes I say, fine, but it really kind of grates against me. It's not really my way. Fine. No, I go, but we need to, in my opinion, we need to be aware of how we really are in order to be able to move through it into something else, whatever might be next. Moving through is a real key concept, I think, because when we are in trouble is when we aren't moving through. We're just there. We're just stuck. And that is our responsibility, to become aware, to be around people, whatever it might be, read books, listen to music, to get ideas. Prosperity comes from ideas. Openness comes from ideas. Transformation comes from ideas. Everything is an idea in the mind of God in unity, and it comes into expression as energy, as things, as people, sometimes ideas in our mind. And the more open we are to ideas, and to the idea of that we might have to get uncomfortable at some point too in order to be transformed. We might have to do and say and be things that we haven't before, so it's outside our comfort zone. We might have to be with people who are different from us. We might have to be with people who are politically different from us. God forbid, but it's true. It's true. We might need, this is really hard for me, you know that, because I am a rabid to one direction. I pointed the wrong way, but I won't tell you which direction I meant. But Brene Brown says we need to learn civil discourse. We've lost it. And that's one of the things we need to learn, civil discourse. To be able to be with people who believe differently and to talk to them without name-calling, without just thinking of what we're going to say next, which wouldn't be heard anyway if we were not being in civil discourse. That this is one of the skills we need to adapt in order to be a thriving and transforming culture. Brene talks a lot about true belonging. And that's what we want. That's why we're here. Aren't we here because we want to belong and have friends and feel loved by others and be able to love others? So if that's not why you're here, raise your hand. No, please don't. Okay, so we really, most of us need, in fact, humans, a sense of belonging. With our species, for one thing. I remember in the movie Harold and Maude when Harold said to Maude, you really like people, don't you? And she said, of course, they're my species, you know. So we have kinship to one another.